So I was having a conversation the other night with my family over dinner, and the topic of cruises came up. And I was like, there is no way in hell I would ever go on a cruise. I'm not going on a cruise. I am not available for cruises. And I guess I'm afraid. I feel like I've worked through a lot of fears through my journey of becoming a coach and hypnotherapist and all the things. But for me, a cruise is a deal breaker.
Yeah.
So I thought maybe we could have a chat today about my fear of going on a cruise ship. And by the way, this is the No Excuses podcast with Alanna Banks and Ryan Montes. And Ryan, what do you think of my fear? What's wrong?
Yeah. This is an interesting one. First of all, I don't believe you. I'll say that off the bat. I don't think you're afraid of cruises. I think you're labeling it as a fear. And I think it's more so a preference that you just don't want to. Even if you don't fully have full conscious awareness of what it is about cruises that is particularly unappealing to you, I feel like if I was like, hey, Alanna, you won the cruise sweepstakes and you get a free 5-star cruise on the Queen Elizabeth II. It's a $20,000 per person value. It leaves tomorrow. Do you want it or not? You'd be like, yes, Ryan, I will accept this this offer. Right?
I don't know. I think I would have to think about it. And I know that that's an excuse that we just uncovered in the last episode.
Yeah. Okay, so let's dissect it. Actually, at first, let's do a quick test. Imagine yourself on a cruise ship. How do you feel?
I feel anxious.
Anxious. Okay.
I mean, I've never been on one, so I don't even know how I would feel. But in my mind, I'm thinking I'm on a cruise ship and I'm feeling anxious that I'm here.
Okay. So generally anxious, another word for feeling anxiety, generally related to fear of the future. So when you're imagining being on the cruise ship, what in the future are you fearing may or may not happen?
I'm thinking that there's going to be a point where I want to get off and I can't.
Okay. And why is that troublesome? What about being on this luxurious cruise with all you can eat food, open bar, entertainment, happy people? It's like, this is awful. I need to leave immediately. I'd rather be in the sea than on this boat. What is the problem with somebody being like, nah, you kind of got to endure 3 more days while you can eat crab legs?
What is it about that? I feel trapped.
Okay. You feel trapped, right?
Yeah.
And why is that a problem? How is that a problem?
Well, because when I feel trapped, I feel scared. Okay. And I don't want to feel scared.
Okay. And what are you scared of? Let's say you're trapped on the boat.
I'm going to die.
You're going to die. Okay. Cool.
So I guess me going on a cruise equals I'm going to die in my subconscious.
Okay. In your subconscious.
Yeah.
Right. What about in your conscious awareness?
I mean, obviously, I know I'm not going to die if I go on a cruise.
You're not.
Consciously, I do know that, but subconsciously, so there's something saying, you might die if you go on a cruise.
Yeah, you might. I mean, probably an equal chance that you might die just like anytime you leave your house.
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, the fear is based on kind of an invalid assumption, is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're probably actually more at risk crossing the street in the neighborhood that you live in than being on a cruise ship, which is a highly controlled environment.
Probably, you're right. Yeah.
Right? Technically.
Yeah.
And statistically speaking, right? So is it possible that there's something about cruises that your unconscious mind just really doesn't like, and it's easier to enforce that contempt with this confabulated fear than with bringing into your awareness what it is about the cruise environment that is against your values unconsciously. Is that possible?
I guess so. Yeah.
Interesting.
I'm not sure what that is.
Yeah. Or if it even is that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, it's kind of making me think like, what if I go on and, there's like an outbreak of some type of virus?
Yeah.
That scares me.
Yeah.
Um, or, what if I go on and I just like, I'm really not enjoying my time at all. And or I get seasick.
Yeah. What if, right? What if the
Yeah.
plane crashes? What if they run out of margarita mix halfway through the flight, right? Okay. Here's my policy on stuff like this. Because the natural next step would be to ask questions that would cause the fear or discomfort to go away. However, we got to remember it's only a problem if it's a problem, right? Right, listeners? It's only a problem if it's a problem. Do you want to be able to go, like, do you want it to be a conscious choice whether you take cruises or not? Or are you just happy to not take cruises in general?
I think I'm just happy not to do it in general.
Yeah. So, I mean, the kind of one of the rules of coaching that I would teach my students is like the minimum change for the maximum behavioral flexibility for the client. So if you currently have the level of behavioral flexibility around the subject of cruises that you desire, which is the conscious choice to not do this and be totally happy and fulfilled in life otherwise, then there's no need to overcome the so-called fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Unless, part of you is saying, well, maybe if there were no fear, I would like to try a cruise one day. I don't know, right?
Yeah.
Only you know if that's the. Yeah.
I like the option of it being just that maybe I'm just not into cruises and that's okay.
Yeah. Maybe that's it. Right.
And it's okay to agree to disagree when I'm in these family conversations about cruises.
Yeah.
If some people want to go on a cruise, that's great, but I'm not interested.
Yeah. I wonder if, because like we talk about secondary gain,
Mm-hmm.
right? And secondary gain is an unconscious need being met unconsciously. I wonder if your unconscious mind, I'm just hypothesizing. Your unconscious mind knows that there is a possibility that somebody might invite you to go on a cruise with them. And it's just easier for you to be afraid of cruises so that you always have a valid reason to not accept these invitations that really nobody can argue with. Right? Yeah. This is not an accusatory question, by the way, nor is it even a question. This is just kind of me wondering out loud. Right?
Yeah.
What would be the benefit unconsciously to your comfort in living to present this as a fear?
Yeah. Well, and this kind of makes me think of like boundary setting, right? And people pleasing, right? Because, someone might ask you, or we should go on a cruise. Or I feel like I'm getting to the age where like that might happen.
You're getting to your cruising years? Where your buddies are going to be like, hey, Alanna, just so you know, we have to start taking 2 cruises a year.
No, I think I think maybe it's just I'm surrounded by more of it because like, my mom is retired. A lot of people in my family are retired. And so cruising has been coming up. Right. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, what, I don't know if I want to be cruising in retirement. That's not something that I want to do. And like, I don't think I want to do that.
See, now I think we're getting dangerously close to the real like thing that's happening under the surface. Right. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong, by the way, with what you're saying. But that makes sense. What you just said kind of makes sense. It's like, well, I'm moving into this circumstance where people might start asking me to come along for a ride I don't want to be a part of.
Yeah,
right?
because I'm open to going to a resort, and the risks of being at a resort are very similar, right? Like there could be an outbreak of something. There could be, like I was saying with the cruise, I might not like it there, but I'm totally open to going to like a resort on land.
Yeah. See, and like, here's the thing. Every now and then, just a wild pack of monkeys just overruns a resort, and they can't get to you if you're on the boat.
True.
Google it, people. It's real. Okay. Those resorts, every now, the odds are low, but it's not impossible.
Mm-hmm.
It's installed a whole new phobia for our listeners. Don't worry, you're fine. There's no roving pack of dangerous monkeys. Or maybe there is. I have no idea.
That's interesting. Sometimes maybe our fears can be masked as us just not wanting to do something, but yet we make an excuse or we put a fear on it for the sake of not having to set that boundary or state, I'm actually not into that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, is it easier to have a fear than to explain to people, no, I don't want to do this thing? For a lot of people, probably, yeah. Right. Yeah. And you had kind of like an interesting thought there. It's connected to boundary setting. It's connected to people pleasing. Right. And again, now I'm not talking about you specifically in your cruise thing. In general, like for people, could the unconscious mind, use this sort of strategy of avoiding what is undesired by presenting as something that no one would argue with or no one would challenge, like a fear or a phobia or an illness or a whatever.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
And the fact of the matter is, like a lot of the time, your unconscious mind will serve you in funny ways outside of even your own conscious awareness.
Yeah. Because it makes more sense for me to be like, oh, I'm afraid to go on a cruise than it does for me to come up with a list of 3 reasons why I'm not into going on a cruise to justify to that person.
Yeah.
Like that's almost what I'm afraid of.
It's
just as I said that. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of my mentors would say, Alanna, no is a full sentence.
I'm not available for that. Okay.
or the Alanna Banks catchphrase. I am not available for that. I'm not available for cruising. Either way, I mean that I bet, there's probably people who are listening to this and saying, oh yeah, like that really makes sense, or that really resonates, or they know someone who is afraid of something when really they kind of deep down know it's just a preference. Mm-hmm. Right. Or vice versa. Or, maybe there's a listener who's thinking, yeah, I tell everybody I'm allergic to seafood. But the thing is, I just don't like nautical themed restaurants and I don't like being there.
Yeah.
Or whatever. That's a silly example, but not.
No, but it's a good example, I think. I think that's a really great example because there's a lot of things that you're like, oh, I don't like that, or I can't eat that, or that puts my stomach off, when you could just say, I don't like it.
Yeah. It's almost like an excuse.
It is. It always comes back to the excuses, Ryan. Always.
Shoot. And the name of the podcast is No Excuses. It's supposed to be no excuses. So no excuses, Alanna. Next week's episode live from the deck of the whatever, I don't know cruise ships names. Cool. How do you feel?
I feel good now, actually. Yeah. I feel a lot lighter about this thing. Like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal anymore for me.
Cool. Well, there we go.
See? Look at that. How long did that take? Like 15 minutes?
15 minutes. Problem solved. Now you just like anybody's like, hey, Alanna, thinking about planning this, you can just scream, no cruises. Do not like them.
Yeah. Although now I'm thinking like if it was like a big party or something like that where like 20 people were going and it's like, then I'll be like, okay, I'm coming.
See, the fear is gone.
Yeah.
Fear is gone. It's just circumstantial. right? Now I'm imagining like one of your like good friends like listening to this who's been like long time secretly planning like your surprise birthday party on like a cruise, and they're like slamming on the desk.
It's
Have fun.
happening.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I just planted a seed in the universe and like my 45th birthday, it's just going to be like this massive cruise party.
Yeah, like a fleet of cruise ships sailing side by side in the shape of a giant A. Cool.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
I think we did
Um,
that one. And I'd love to hear from the listeners. What did you think of this episode? It's a little unexpected because we haven't done an episode like this before.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Listeners, how do you feel about this episode?
And are there maybe other fears that we could tackle?
Yeah, are you canceling your trip to the all-inclusive resort because of the monkeys? If you are, send me a message. And if not, let me know how it goes. I've never been on a cruise, by the way, Alanna.
Oh,
Never
yeah,
have.
well, me neither.
Yeah, well, no surprise there, but I consider myself a bit of a travel enthusiast. I haven't done that. I
Is
haven't
it
done
something
it.
you would want to do?
I'm kind of like indifferent. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. I'm not opposed, but I'm not like cruising the cruise ship websites
Yeah.
daily or anything like that. I don't know. If it came up, I probably would do it. If it doesn't come up, I don't know.
So you'll come to my 45th birthday?
Yeah, I'll be there I'll be there on the fleet of cruise ships. I'll hang out. Why not? I mean, it seems cool. It's just like a floating resort, you
Yeah.
know. Depending on the cruise, I imagine it's just like great food and like,
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
I don't know. What's wrong with that, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
All
So
right.
this week's episode brought to you by who? Carnival Cruise Lines? Oh boy. I'm not going to be happy about this. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have a sponsor. Cool. All right. We got it?
I think we got it.
Cool. All right. Well, I guess that's it. Hey, where can people find you? Hey, you have a new website.
I do.
Although by the time this episode airs, it'll only be kind of new. It'll only be pretty new.
Yeah. Well, I think I've mentioned it in a couple of episodes back that have not aired yet. But yeah, you can find me at alannabanks.com or on Instagram, as always, my favorite place on the internet, Alanna Banks Coaching.
Cool. Mm-hmm. You can find me on Instagram, Ryan Montes NLP, or ryanmontes.com. Yeah.
Cool. All right. That was a great episode. Thank you.
I loved it. Bye, everyone.
Bye.